Hi, everybody. I wanted to go over a couple of things now that we're finished up with our winter testing. Thank you so much for all of your hard work with that. I know it is a tough task, but we love to see the progress that our students are making. So thank you so much for all of your hard work. I wanted to show you a couple things on your dibels reports page that might be helpful and remind you of a couple things as we move out of this testing window and into a progress monitoring window. Yes, I said progress monitoring window. I'll get to that in a moment. But I wanted to show you just some quick things to look at. So when you pull up your reports page for Amplify or dibels, whichever you're calling it, we're on middle of year, right? So I can see in this class, I have one student, everybody's been assessed. Nobody's in progress or not assessed. So everybody's done. So I have one student well below the benchmark. I have two students that are below benchmark overall. This is the overall composite score. 7 students at and 12 students above. Okay. So if you wanted to see kind of how you did from beginning to middle of year, you can easily hit this summary tab up here. So you just click summary, and that gives you the instant class summary of the students assessed from beginning of year to middle of year. So we had 1 at the beginning, we got 1 now. We had 3, we went down to 2. We went from 9 to 7, but here, look at this jump, 9 to 12. So we had lots of good growth in this class over the course from the beginning to the middle of the year. Doesn't mean that this student is the same student progress or well below. I'm not going to scroll down to show student names because, again, I don't know where this video may go or the teacher, the class that it's in. But I do want to pull your attention to looking at the goals. So down here, you would see, looking towards the bottom of the screen right now, you would see, the student name, their composite goal. Look at how close they were to the composite goal. We had a lot of students in the 380s that came up below the benchmark, but look at how close they were. And then go out to their subtests and see what subtest was it that they scored below or maybe well below on. Why do we want to do that? Well, we want to see where the breakdown was. Is it phonemic awareness? Is it their reading accuracy? Is it their word count per minute? Because we know all of these things add up to their composite score. We also know the target changes as we move into the end of year testing window that will begin April the 25th. I wrote that down. So we want to note that because we want to see where the breakdown is for the students. This is a progression, you guys. From left to right, it's a progression. So when we're thinking about what do I need to work on with these students, you, of course, can go to your instructions tab up here at the top. I always encourage you to do that to see how it's grouping students. If you just want a quick at a glance, look and see what subtest they had trouble with. And that will also show you where they are in their progression. So what does this mean? Well, now we have to think about progress monitoring. And we didn't do a lot of that. We didn't do it the recommended amount of times between the beginning of year and middle of year because it was still new to us. We were still learning about it. So we did 1 round of it. But we really do want to adhere to the county guidelines of any student that was marked well below the benchmark on their overall composite being tested every 2 weeks for progress monitoring, and then any student that was below the benchmark being tested every 4 weeks for progress monitoring. And I did ask the ELA office, could we just do everybody every 3 weeks and be happy with that? And they said no, because all of this is based on the science behind the dibels assessments. So we're trying to do this with as much fidelity as we can. So we want to test any student. So this teacher would have 1 student to test every 2 weeks on 1 dibels subtest. It's a 1-minute assessment potentially. And they have 2 students to do every 4 weeks. The window closes February the 10th. So a 2-week window out from that would be our first progress monitoring due February the 24th. Followed by March the 10th, then March the 24th, and 1 more, April the 14th, if we're testing our well below students every 2 weeks, because our spring window opens up on the 25th. So we would only have 4 potential times that we needed to collect those data points. And this teacher would only need to test that one student during those 4 times. Now, this teacher does have 2 students that are below the benchmark, and those students need to be progress monitored on one subtest at least every 4 weeks. So that would be March the 10th, March the 10th and April the 14th. So those would be the 2 dates we would need to progress monitor those students on one subtest. Erin, what subtest do I pick to progress monitor them on? Well, there is a suggested one, but look at their subtest. What did they score below or well below in? We want to start with that, and we start from the progression from left to right. So if they had letter sounds that was not coming out good, or decoding, like this nonsense word fluency, we know this is one subtest we get 2 scores for. So if they're well below, that's where we start. And we start progress monitoring them there. If they show progress in the 2 weeks, we can move on to word reading if that was another one that was below or well below. But again, it's a progression. And we're not asking you to give all of the dibbles subtests during progress monitoring. We are simply asking that you give at least one in the area of need based on this continuum, so that we are progress monitoring every 2 weeks for students that are well below and every 4 weeks for students that are below the benchmark. Okay. You can also remember that you can turn this Lexile measure on and off. I know this can be helpful, especially as we're moving our 2nd grade students into having to read everything, and you can get a Lexile range down here for kind of where your students are at this point. It's not a perfect measure, but it is a measure, and it gives you a data point to hang your hat on to have a starting place when we're reading with students aloud, okay? I do want to remind you that in Benchmark, there are fluency quick checks that have Lexile measures assigned to them. And so you can use them for a complex text that has a Lexile to see if they are accessing grade level text. You can also use your text for close reading. You can do that as well. But you can use those fluency quick checks in small groups as well. Getting those kids to read out loud all of the time is super and critically important as we start to apply these skills and really breaking the code. Please let me know if you have any additional questions.